A single millionaire mother sees black waiter teaching her autistic son to speak. What she does next changes her life forever. "Get that man away from my son now!" Sophia Bennett's voice cut through the refined air of the Velvet Orchid restaurant like a razor. Her words, sharp and commanding, masked a flicker of panic. Had she pushed Noah too far by bringing him here? All heads turned to the most expensive table in the establishment, where the 40-year-old tech CEO, known for her coldness in business and fortune built in software development, pointed accusingly at Malik, the black waiter who had knelt beside her son Noah. The 8-year-old boy, who minutes earlier had been in the throes of a sensory meltdown, screaming and banging his head on the table, now remained silent, staring intently at the waiter, who was drawing symbols on a napkin with extraordinary calm. "Ma'am, he's just helping the boy," Claude, the maitre d', tried to explain, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. "Malik specializes in alternative communication, and I don't care what diploma he forged." Sophia stood up, adjusting her impeccable blazer. Her posture was rigid, a shield against the whispers of onlookers already judging her as a mother. "Who gave him permission to touch my son? Do you have any idea who I am?" The restaurant fell into an awkward silence. At the next table, Dr. Laura Mitchell, a renowned neurologist and close friend of Sophia's, lowered her head, pretending to look for something in her purse, clearly embarrassed by the scene. Malik remained impassive, dignity shining in his dark eyes as he slowly rose. "I apologize for the intrusion, Mrs. Bennett. Your son was using echolalia, repeating numbers in sequence to calm himself. I simply wrote them down to create a visual anchor." Sophia froze. How did that waiter know her full name, and how did he know technical terms about Noah's disorder that even she, after consulting with the most expensive specialists in the country, did not fully understand? A memory surfaced. A vague warning from an anonymous source about Aurora Clinic's unseen dangers, dismissed as paranoia but now clawing at her mind. "Mommy, look!" Noah's voice came unexpectedly, almost like a whisper. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Noah hadn't spoken a coherent word in almost 2 years. The boy pointed to the napkin where Malik had drawn a sequence of numbers and symbols. 7, 6, 5, 4. "It's a countdown." "It calms me down." Sophia felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. Her son was talking, forming complete sentences, communicating. Yet the triumph was tainted by a chilling doubt. Malik's calm felt too rehearsed, as if he'd planned this moment to expose her vulnerabilities. "How did you—" she began to ask, but was interrupted by the manager, Edward Langston, who appeared hurriedly. "Mr. Malik, please follow me to the office immediately." The tone did not hide his contained anger. "Mrs. Bennett, please accept our sincerest apologies for this unacceptable incident. The employee will be punished accordingly." Something in Malik's expression changed. A quick flash of anger, soon replaced by a calculating serenity that Sophia, an expert in hostile negotiations, recognized immediately. This man was not defeated. He was assessing, planning. "Don't bother," Malik replied to the manager, slowly unbuttoning his uniform vest. "I quit. Some places don't deserve the best of us." His voice carried a quiet defiance, a challenge that lingered in the air like a dare. Turning to Noah, he smiled genuinely. "It was a pleasure meeting you, young mathematician." To everyone's surprise, Noah reached out and took Malik's hand. "Stay," he said in a trembling voice. "Please." Sophia felt tears burn her eyes. In 2 years of expensive therapy, international consultations, and experimental treatments, nothing had achieved what that waiter had accomplished in minutes. "Your car is waiting, sir," said Edward, clearing a path between the tables. "Don't make us call security." Malik nodded, his dignity intact as he walked toward the exit. As he passed the table, he discreetly slipped a card toward the napkin with the numbers on it. Sophia picked it up reflexively, hiding it in her closed palm. The card's weight felt like a ticking bomb, promising answers she wasn't sure she could face. As she watched him walk through the mirrored doors, a wave of shame washed over her. Not just for the public embarrassment, but for something deeper she didn't want to admit. She looked at the card in her hand. Dr. Malik Harrison, Ph.D. in behavioral neuroscience, specialist in nonverbal communication. What no one in that restaurant could have imagined was that this moment of public humiliation was not the end, but the beginning of a journey that would transform 3 lives forever. Behind that waiter facade was a man with a purpose too powerful to be held back by prejudice and a personal story that connected to Sophia's in ways she could never have suspected. If this story of prejudice and redemption touched your heart, be sure to sign up to find out how a simple business card would become the first step in tearing down an empire of lies that kept Noah prisoner of his silence. Over the next 2 weeks, Sophia alternated between regretting her behavior at the restaurant and planning how to contact the man who had made Noah talk. The card remained on her nightstand, gnawing at her conscience every morning. The CEO of Bennett Innovations, accustomed to making decisions that affected millions in seconds, found herself paralyzed by shame. Each glance at the card stirred a storm of guilt and suspicion. Had Malik orchestrated their encounter to trap her? "You need to call him," Laura insisted, as she watched Noah through the penthouse window. The boy sat in the terrace garden, obsessively drawing the same sequence of numbers in his notebook. He hadn't spoken a single word since the incident. "For God's sake, Sophia, put your pride aside." "It's not pride," Sophia whispered, unable to take her eyes off her son. "It's fear. Fear you, the woman who stood alone against a board of men to take control of the company when everyone bet on her failure." Sophia took a deep breath. There was another reason for her hesitation. Something even her closest friend didn't know. Something related to the Harrison name. A decade ago, she'd silenced a whistleblower named Harrison during a merger. His accusations about unethical trials buried with a settlement. Was Malik his kin, seeking retribution? "I'll research him first," she finally decided. What Sophia discovered in the following hours left her stunned. Dr. Malik Harrison, 36, was a prodigy. He graduated from MIT at 22, earned his PhD at Caltech at 26, and had published articles in renowned scientific journals on nonverbal communication in neurodivergent children. But what really took her breath away was the discovery that 3 years ago, he had abandoned a promising academic career after a scandal involving the death of his younger brother. Diagnosed with severe autism while under the care of an experimental clinic, the Aurora Clinic, the same one Noah had been attending monthly for experimental treatments, the same one that belonged to the Bennett Innovations Group. Sophia felt her stomach sink. Malik wasn't at Velvet Orchid by chance. He was watching, studying, maybe even... She swallowed hard, the word revenge flashing like a warning in her mind. Her investigator's report confirmed her fears. Malik had accessed Aurora's restricted files under a false identity, amassing evidence against her company. Meanwhile, in a small apartment across San Francisco, Malik was meticulously organizing a wall full of documents. In the center was a photo of his brother Jaden, smiling. Around it were news articles about the Aurora Clinic, financial documents from Bennett Innovations, and discreet photographs of Noah at various public events. "I'm getting closer, little brother," he murmured to the photo. "She'll come looking for me. I'm sure of it." His eyes lingered on Jaden's photo, the pain of loss fueling his mission, yet Noah's voice echoed in his mind, softening his resolve with a glimmer of hope. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Claude, the maitre d' at Velvet Orchid. "She's looking for you," said the voice on the other end of the line. "She hired a private investigator. She's desperate, Malik. The boy has stopped talking again." Malik closed his eyes. Part of him wanted to rejoice in the suffering of Sophia Bennett, the woman whose companies profited from experimental treatments that had cost Jaden his life. But another part, the scientist, the brother who had cared for someone like Noah, felt devastated by the child trapped in his silent world. "What are you going to do?" asked Claude, concerned by the prolonged silence. "What I've always planned," replied Malik, looking at a specific folder on his desk. "Operation Truth. But not as I imagined." 3 days later, in a discreet cafe away from the spotlight, Sophia waited nervously. She had arrived an hour earlier, dismissed the security guards, and parked her own car, things she never did. She needed this meeting on neutral ground. Malik arrived on time, wearing simple jeans and a blue shirt, nothing that suggested the academic brilliance revealed by the dossier in Sophia's possession. He saw her immediately, but before approaching her, he did something that surprised her. He took a photo of Jaden out of his pocket, looked at it, and whispered something like a silent promise. The photo's worn edges spoke of years of grief, a stark reminder that Malik's stakes were as personal as her own. "Thank you for coming," Sophia began when he sat down across from her. "I didn't come for you," he replied dryly. "I came for Noah." The silence between them hung heavy for several seconds. "You knew who I was from the beginning," she stated. It wasn't a question. Malik stared at her with disturbing intensity, from the moment Aurora accepted Noah as a patient. "And the job at the restaurant, coincidence?" he replied with a half-smile that suggested otherwise. "You really believe in coincidences, Miss Bennett?" Sophia felt fear rise, but she controlled it as she had done thousands of times in tense negotiations. Her hand tightened around a hidden USB drive, loaded with Aurora's tampered reports she'd uncovered, bearing her signature yet not her intent. "What do you want?" His answer caught her completely off guard. "I want you to hire me as Noah's personal therapist, with unrestricted access to all of his medical records at Aurora, and permission to completely modify his treatment." "That's absurd. Why would I trust my son to—" "Because at the restaurant," Malik interrupted, leaning forward, "when everyone saw a meltdown, I saw a boy desperately trying to tell you that he's being harmed by the treatments you believe are helping him." Unexpected tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. "How did you—" "The numbers, Mrs. Bennett. The sequence wasn't random. It was a countdown, yes, but it was also a code. Noah is a genius fighting to survive what they're doing to him." He produced a small notebook, its pages filled with Noah's sequences, decoded to reveal a child's desperate cry for help, a revelation that shattered Sophia's defenses. At that moment, Sophia made a decision that would change everything, not because she trusted Malik, but because she loved Noah more than anything in the world. "My driver will bring your contract tomorrow," she said, standing up. "But know this, Dr. Harrison, if I find out this is some kind of revenge for your brother's death, there is no place in this world where you can hide from me." What Sophia didn't notice as she hurried out of the cafe was the slight tremor in Malik's hands as he put away the photo of his brother. Nor did she notice the small tape recorder he discreetly turned off under the table. The chess game between them was just beginning, and Noah was simultaneously king and pawn, a central piece that neither of them could afford to lose. 3 months had passed since Malik Harrison took on the role of Noah's private therapist. The boy's transformation was undeniable. Not only had he started talking again, but he now communicated in complete sentences, drew with purpose, and even developed his own mathematical codes to express emotions. At the Bennett penthouse, the tense atmosphere gradually turned into a fragile normality. Sophia watched Noah's progress with a mix of awe and unease, her trust in Malik growing, yet shadowed by the USB drive's secrets she hadn't dared to fully explore. On that sunny morning, sitting in her glass office on the 50th floor of Bennett Tower, Sophia reviewed the latest updates on Noah. The recorded session showed a different boy, smiling, confident, free. Part of her felt genuine relief. Another part remained vigilant, watching Malik's every move from a distance. "Dr. Mitchell is on the line again," her assistant informed her, interrupting her thoughts. "She insists it's urgent." Sophia frowned. Laura had become strangely evasive in recent weeks, canceling lunches, avoiding visits to the penthouse. "Connect her, Sophia?" Laura's voice sounded tense over the speakerphone. "We need to talk. Not on the phone. I'm busy." "Laura, get to the point." A heavy sigh. "It's about Dr. Harrison and Aurora. I've discovered something disturbing." Sophia's heart raced. The USB drive in her drawer seemed to pulse with dread, its contents a looming threat she could no longer ignore. "My office in an hour." While she waited, Sophia opened her personal safe and removed a folder marked Project Nebula Confidential. Documents that not even the board members knew about, signed only by her and Dr. Summers, Aurora's director. Experimental studies, unapproved techniques, promising results despite acceptable side effects. When Laura entered, she had an expression Sophia hadn't seen since college, the same one she had when they faced an abusive professor who threatened their careers. "What do you know about Jaden Harrison?" Laura asked bluntly. Malik's brother, only that he died at Aurora during experimental treatment. Laura placed a flash drive on the table. Not quite. He didn't pass away. According to these internal reports, Jaden was deliberately used as a test subject for the Nebula protocol without proper informed consent. Sophia paled. Where did you get this? Malik came to me 2 months ago. I didn't want to believe it, but the documents... Laura bit her lip. Sophia, did you know about this? Of course not. Sophia stood up abruptly, but the memory of a hastily signed document she had barely read flashed through her mind. I would never approve something like that. It's all documented. And worse, the same protocol is being used on Noah. The words fell like stones. Impossible. Noah is getting better, temporarily. The long-term neurological effects are... Laura couldn't finish. Sophia's phone rang, the penthouse's private number. Mrs. Bennett, the housekeeper's voice, was trembling. Dr. Harrison is in the main office with Noah. He locked the door and activated the house transmission system. He's showing some kind of presentation on all the screens. Call security, Sophia shouted, already running for the elevator with Laura at her heels. In the Bennett penthouse, every television, tablet, and monitor displayed the same image. Malik sitting calmly next to Noah, facing a wall of evidence. Good afternoon, Sophia, Malik said directly to the camera. Imagine you're already on your way. Don't worry, Noah is perfectly safe. In fact, for the first time since he began treatment at Aurora, he is truly safe. Noah smiled and waved. Hi, Mom. I'm helping Dr. Malik save other children. What you see behind us, Malik continued, gesturing to the wall of documents, is the truth about Project Nebula, an experimental protocol designed to reprogram neurodivergent brains through nanoparticles that bind to specific neuroreceptors, promising a cure for autism, but causing permanent brain damage. The camera zoomed in on a photo. A smiling boy with the same eyes as Malik. This is Jaden, my brother, diagnosed with severe autism at age 4, placed in the Nebula program without our full consent, killed at age 12 from unforeseen neurological complications. The broadcast cut to security footage from Aurora, children in seizures, doctors rushing to administer sedatives, meetings where risks were discussed and ignored. What you didn't know, Sophia, is that while I was working with Noah, I was also treating the damage caused by Nebula. The improvements you saw weren't miracles. They were recoveries after I secretly stopped the protocol. When Sophia's limousine pulled up to the penthouse, a crowd had already gathered. Journalists, cameras, families holding photos of children, Aurora patients. She rushed inside, finding security helpless in front of the locked doors of her own office. On the screens, Malik continued. Today, I'm not just exposing the truth. I'm presenting the solution. The camera showed Noah demonstrating exercises and using tablets with specific programs. I've developed a reversal protocol to minimize the damage from Nebula. All the material is being sent right now to medical authorities, health departments, and affected families. Sophia finally managed to get inside, finding Malik and Noah sitting calmly, as they had been during the broadcast, which continued on every screen in the house. You, she began, but stopped when she saw Noah protectively placing himself in front of Malik. No, Mom, the boy said with surprising firmness. Dr. Malik saved me. He saved my brain. Malik stood up, dignity emanating from his every gesture. You have 2 options, Sophia. First, deny everything, sue me, use your power to silence the truth. In that case, the evidence has already been sent to the Washington Post, the New York Times, and federal prosecutors. He paused, watching Sophia's devastated expression. Second option? Acknowledge your mistakes, take responsibility, and use your fortune and influence to repair the damage. Fund corrective treatments for every affected child. Reform Aurora as an ethical research center. Make the difference you always wanted to make before you got lost in the numbers. Laura entered the room, standing beside Malik. The betrayal Sophia felt was palpable. You too, Laura. I've always been on the side of what's right, Laura replied softly. How could you be if you remembered the woman I met in college? Noah approached his mother, touching her hand hesitantly. Dr. Malik says you didn't know everything, that bad people hid things from you. Sophia's legs gave way and she collapsed into the nearest chair, the empire she had built crumbling in real time. On the screens, images of Jaden smiling alternated with documents bearing her signature on protocols she barely remembered approving. "It's too late," she whispered. Malik turned off the cameras with a soft click. "It's never too late to do the right thing, Sophia. Believe me, I spent 3 years planning to destroy you completely, until I met Noah and realized that revenge wouldn't save my brother, but the truth could save dozens of children." He held out his hand, not as an enemy, but as a potential ally in a cause greater than both of them. In that silent office, surrounded by painful truths and impossible choices, 3 people remained suspended in a decisive moment. The penthouse that had always represented power now seemed as fragile as a house of cards. And as the media gathered at the gates and the phones rang incessantly, one question hung in the air. Can someone truly rebuild themselves from the ashes of their own mistakes? 3 years had passed since that afternoon that changed everything. At the new headquarters of the Nebula Reborn Foundation, Sophia Bennett looked out the window at the courtyard, where neurodivergent children played freely. Among them, Noah, now 11, patiently explained a complex mathematical code to 2 other boys. "He really has a way with words now," commented Malik, approaching with 2 coffees. He was no longer wearing his waiter's uniform. Obviously, Dr. Harrison was now the scientific director of the foundation, using his title for the purpose it should always have had. Who would have thought we'd end up here? Sophia took the cup, smiling slightly. The woman who once commanded empires with cold calculation had disappeared. In her place, a different leader had emerged, still determined, but guided by purpose rather than power. On that crucial afternoon 3 years ago, Sophia could have chosen the easy way out. Sue Malik, cover up the scandal, sacrifice a few pieces on her corporate chessboard. Instead, she had done something no one expected. She had taken full responsibility. "Remember the day of the public hearing?" Malik asked as they looked out over the courtyard together. How could she forget? Sophia Bennett, impeccably dressed, standing before the Senate committee, cameras broadcasting across the country. "I failed, not just as a CEO, but as a mother, as a human being. Today, I am here to do what is right." Bennett Innovations had been dismantled, reorganized as a nonprofit foundation dedicated to ethical research and revolutionary treatment for neurodivergent children. Sophia's fortune, practically all of it, funded treatments for more than 600 children affected by the Nebula Protocol. "Jaden would be proud," Sophia said softly. The name no longer caused tension between them. Malik's brother's photo had a place of honor in the main lobby next to a commemorative plaque so that no child will ever be silenced again. Laura appeared at the door, waving to them. They're here in the main auditorium. Families waited in silence, fathers and mothers of children affected by Nebula, who 3 years earlier had hoped for justice, now witnessed something greater: redemption. Sophia took the stage. Without papers or teleprompters, when we lose our way, the universe sometimes sends unlikely messengers to rescue us. For me, it was a waiter who refused to be invisible. Her steady voice now trembled slightly, and a child who deserved to be heard. In the front row, Noah smiled, his restless hands drumming a rhythm known only to him. Next to him was an empty chair with a photo, Jaden Harrison. Today we announced that the reverse protocol, developed by Dr. Harrison and our team, has been approved internationally. It will be made available free of charge to all clinics that treat neurodivergent children. No family will pay a penny. The room erupted in applause. Malik watched from the back, a silent tear rolling down his cheek. Sophia continued, "Some ask me if I regret losing my fortune, my empire. The truth is, I've never been richer." She paused, looking directly at Noah. "I've learned that there is no greater fortune than the truth. There is no power greater than doing what is right, even when it is difficult, especially when it is difficult." Later, when the auditorium emptied and only the 3 remained, Sophia, Malik, and Noah, the boy approached with a drawing. It was no longer a code of numbers, but a simple portrait, 3 figures holding hands. "Family," he said simply. Sophia looked at Malik, the silent question hanging between them. He nodded almost imperceptibly. "Yes," she replied to her son, holding his small hand while extending the other to Malik. "Family." On that peaceful afternoon, as the sun painted the horizon gold, three people who had begun their journeys as adversaries discovered the greatest truth of all. Sometimes our deepest wounds become portals to our greatest healing, and as night fell gently on the Nebula Reborn Foundation, a lesson echoed silently through the halls. True wealth has never been in the empires we build, but in the lives we transform when we find the courage to do what is right. If this story of transformation and redemption touched your heart, sign up for more stories that show how even in the darkest moments, humanity can still choose the